First item on the agenda for this evening is to elect chairperson for the year. Second, ask for nominations for chairperson.
I propose Councillor David Pratt.
Second that.
Second that.
Any nomination? Any other nominations? Any votes on? 3, 4.
What about yourself, then?
Any votes against? Any abstentions? Carried. Okay. Councillor Brown for.
Maybe kind of the same track as we had. Right. Now we need an appointment of a vice chair. Have we got any nominations? Yes, Alison.
I would like to nominate Councillor Darren Smith.
Seconded for that. Do we have any other nominations? No. Can we go to the group, please? All those in favour? All those against? And any abstentions? Right, now moving on to the agendas a whole. First of all, apologies, we have any apologies.
One apology, and that's from Councillor Hurstings.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Moving on. Minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of April. These minutes were provided in the council agenda on the 20th of May 22. Have we got any comments, or can I proceed to sign those minutes? Thank you. I'll sign the witness of the. Right. On to item 5, budgetary control. The report, which is seen on page 3.
Yes, thank you. So just a couple of things to note. Importantly, expenditure is under where we'd expect an income over, which is the right way around. A couple of things just to note. I think under expenditure on page 3 of Woodford Park Leisure Centre, there's a note there that coaching and equipment and vending are slightly over the 8%. That's reflected in the income for courses. Just over the page, you can see this. Likewise, for the Garden of Remembrance, where inscription costs are 28%, which is above for the period. Offset by the income, which is. And just a note for context on income, that figure is low because when the invoices go out in January, December, January, so that income there is only since April. Obviously, the rest of that comes in later in the year. If there's any questions?
Yeah, 4,000, is that a bit lumpy?
So,
4,000. Budget. Expenditure, sorry.
yeah, that's mostly to do with some benches which we purchased, which we then get, we do get income against those, but there's a delay in that. So we purchased them since the start of the year.
On the income, you gave us the actuals for the last year of the plan. Bowling work, yeah. The actuals for May 2020, we had the time, we didn't have any income. And now we've got 4,160 in income for 2021.
The terms of the lease were negotiated, but I'll need to check when that's actually due for payment. In terms of the.
Right, it's just that it wasn't in the actuals in May of 2021, but it is in the actuals, restated actuals for April 2021.
Oh, okay.
Probably just to check.
Yeah, I don't think that's an error when that was stated in.
That's a correction, basically. And I mean, in general, it looks like the income from the big ticket items is back to kind of 2019, which is good. Have we been affected by Bullmarsh? Do you think?
I'd say because it coincided with COVID, so obviously that period. But in terms of why we lost business, I'd imagine it's going to be a combination of both. But not as significantly as we thought.
No, but you're above what you were in 2019. And it's about the same. So that's quite encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the public toilet. You know, we seem to have the expenditures far less at this point in 22 than it was in 21, but it's got a zero income. So what's the story behind that?
It hadn't been processed when this went out. I can circulate a figure for that. There is. It depends when it's been emptied, basically, and then the money counting. And then
What's the expenditure side of that?
Some of that is to do with the contract cost, so that comes out because that's invoiced monthly for the contract cleaning. So that will be shown because that comes out each month.
I had hoped that sort of post-COVID, the use of the toilet might have been increased again, but we can't tell from these figures.
We can't tell from this. No.
Do you have any more questions? Thank you.
So, I mentioned there about the electrical works. I won't go into too much detail about this because I know it's partly in Kevin's report as well. But we've now had confirmation that those major works are going to be starting on the 1st of August. So a significant portion of my time at the moment is being spent kind of planning for the disruption that's going to be caused by that. We're still waiting for a detailed work schedule from the contractor, but what we do know is that we'd like it to be closed for around 8 working days from the 1st of August. So we're working on things like how we can move exercise classes outside again, potentially move some of our bookings over to the open facilities or other council facilities. Because it's in the school holidays, it's a bit less disruption than there would have been if it was during term time, because some of our gym activities, for example, won't be running anyway. But yeah, obviously that's taking a bit of time to kind of plan out properly, and there's lots of kind of curveballs that can be thrown up all the time. And I'd imagine that isn't going to be an easy 8 to 9 weeks. I think it says that on the report. The one benefit of that, of course, is that we're kind of used to disruption and having to move things because of COVID, so we've had some practice now. You know, our members, for example, use swimming classes outside during the summer months and things like that. So I don't think it'll be as bad as we'd originally thought it would be initially. So I'm expecting some delays in the middle of those works when they kind of find something they're not expecting. So, the paddling pool opened as planned on Saturday, just gone. Not as busy as we'd hoped it would be because the weather's been a bit sporadic, to say the least. But we did have some visitors and people were happy to see it open, and we're now planning on opening it every day, you know, until the end of the summer. There's still a couple of question marks about how the electrical works will affect that, because the pool pump is powered from the leisure centre. And we'll kind of get, it's a question we've asked the contractor, we're waiting for a response from, but they've got so many questions from us that I'm not pushing anything just yet. I'd imagine that will get more and more popular the closer we get to the summer holidays. We've had some damage to the 3G pitch. It's like a little divot, really. It's hard to really explain it without showing pictures of it. We weren't sure at first whether that was natural or vandalism. It appears to be more natural, we think. We think it's where a football space got caught in the ground and actually ripped up a bit of the surface. The cost of repair there is £540, and eventually it will need repair. The way they do that is they actually cut a metre out of the turf itself and just re-stitch a metre into it. So it doesn't matter whether it's a little 10 or a metre, the cost is exactly the same. I'm waiting for a report to come through. It should come through next week, which gives a bit more detail about that and kind of confirm whether or not it was vandalism or natural. But the conversations I've had with the contractor with you say it's most likely natural based on the pictures they've seen. So for now, we've kind of padded it out with some additional rubber chrome, so it's not going to cause any injuries or anything like that. But over time, it will get worse if we don't do something about it. We've also mentioned general repairs to our nets, dividing nets and things like that over the last couple of weeks. It's something we do at the end of every football season, just because we get a bit more time on the pitch and need space. And we're hoping to basically make it a good game over the
Just one question. You mentioned that the damage there was possibly caused by a stud. Now, I'm not 100% certain, but are there special studs that people should be using?
There used to be a lot more common for people to have metal blades as studs, and that they've kind of been phased out now. They used to cause damage to 3G pitches quite frequently. All of the studs now that people use are absolutely fine. This is where it's more likely that somebody's kind of jumped into the air and angled the ground, which you're not supposed to do either, but becomes very difficult to work out where that was based on the fact that we have hundreds of people out there every day. And so it looks like they've kind of hit the ground harder than you normally would do if you were just running or jogging. So, and again, that's kind of what the contractors suggest is most likely to happen because they have seen it before, so it's not uncommon for this. And it is also in an area of the pitch that's heavily used. As you can imagine, the outsides of the pitch are less used than the sides of the pitch. So it's right on one of the penalty spots at one of the ends of the pitch where you get the most usage. It's one of the areas that we spend most of our time kind of maintaining throughout the season as well. So it's not entirely surprising.
Thank you.
We had interviews for our reception towards the end of last week. I have a number of staff who have been with us since they were 16, and this September they're all planning to go to university, which is obviously good, but not good at the same time. So we held some interviews and we ended up employing a young lady who's actually coming in to start training with us this week. Held 5 or 6 interviews, six interviews, and they were all really positive, actually, really good. So I was quite pleased with that. And then lastly, something that took up most of my time during May was the return of the Woodley School Sports Week. I've listed there the events that ran this year, and it was a kind of diluted version of previous years, but we haven't ran it since 2019 for obvious reasons. Generally speaking, it went really well. The kids all really enjoyed it. It was a bit of there was some teething issues. Done it for a few years, where we kind of had them regimented in 2019, 2018, 2017, etc. But generally speaking, it went really well. So council staff ran the activities on the Monday, which is the multi-skills and the cricket tournament. The weather held out right up until the last minute for the cricket. We were able to finish the final game before it started raining, which was good. And then the whole school, the PE departments and the whole school, their students ran the activities on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, which also went really well. So, like I said, it was kind of a smaller version of events compared to previous years, and I know for a fact they've already started making booking inquiries for next year. But you see the timetable is a lot larger than it was this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was about the paddling pool. Obviously, I'm fortunate that we just got it open, and come the end of July, we could be within a few weeks of it closing again, just when the school holidays are happening. Is there any chance of some sort of portable electrical supply, like a transformer? Is that what you're generating, not a transformer? So is that the sort of question that you're asking the contractor?
It is, yeah. Mainly because I don't know how easy or hard that would be, but that's the question I've asked, and I haven't had an answer back yet. Yes, yeah,
you said 8 days, but was that for something specific?
so I don't know the details of the work. I'm not very good at the electrics, but I know that for 8 days, the inside of the leisure centre will be completely closed and will have no power whatsoever. That does raise problems with the pool itself, because even if we manage to power the pool, everybody that goes still needs to use the toilets. We have kind of sounded out a portable kind of toilet. It's better before we had a period of closure. There's actually quite reasonable for, I think it's about £500 per week. So that's something we are looking at, and once we have the answer, we can then start making those plans, because I agree it'd be a shame to close it during the summer months when it's potentially is most busy. After those 10 days, we're still kind of in the dark a little bit about what would happen, because certain sections of the building will be out of action at different times. What that does mean is that we might have to close the pool for odd days, but that's not uncommon either, because we sometimes do that tactically to keep the water clarity good, and so that we can maintain the chemical levels and kind of recover the pool after a couple of heavy days of usage. So if we plan that right, it wouldn't be unheard of anyway. But once I have more information about kind of the schedule, I'll be able to start kind of nailing down those.
It's about the 3D pitch. Do we have sort of insurance that would cover these things? How does that work? Or would it be a case of, like, I don't know, we operate on excess, and if that would be more than that?
We do have insurance for everything, and there is an excess. We have a £250 excess for damage to things. So sometimes there's a balance with plans.
So is that how this has been worked out, that we're not going to go via the insurance companies?
I haven't made any decisions on it at all yet. That's the kind of the report came back with that quite attached to it. We do have cover as part of our contracts with technical services, what they're called. That cover. They were the recommended contractor when the pitch was installed, yes. So I think they were involved to a point. We've been with them since the pitch has been built, actually. They've been really helpful with that. And within our contract, we have something that's called re-sticking. It's quite common that the surface basically becomes unstuck from the sand underneath, etc. But because this is a tear, not a re-sticking, it's not covered. But we have a 20 metres of re-sticking free per year. and which we have used multiple times, where basically an area is repetitively using the stitches becomes a bit. But, yeah, this is a little bit different, but that's covered in as part of our contract.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just an observation. I mean, the Woodford Leisure Centre, is it down on electricity at least once, twice a year, for whatever reason? Is it if that only happens occasionally? I'm just wondering if if some sort of electrical temporary supply could be set up so you could bring in a generator more easily in times when you've got these sort of issues. If it was happening more regularly, that's what I'm thinking. But maybe something to consider.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that having excellent communications about when the paddling pool is open and it's not is really important. Because I think we all know that, if you tell your children we're going to go down to the park, enjoy the paddling park, you get there and it's closed. It's an absolute disaster. So we need to communicate to people, have a look on our Facebook, have a look on our website. There's a possibility it might be closed, not just the electrical work, that's the same. Just to keep it as clean as we possibly can, we do sometimes have to close it. And I assume that you don't do that on a regular schedule, as in it's not open on Tuesdays, Mondays. So people do need to have a look, and we need to make sure that we are putting the information out to give people notice.
We started using Facebook for paddling pool a few years ago, and it's worked really well. We installed signage in the area that basically says check our social media pages. The website's fine, but of course it takes a bit more time to update. You can't be quite as reactive as you can with social media. So we always encourage people to call them the day before they arrive, and we make sure we have receptionists on shift earlier so that we can basically answer the phone if anyone's thinking about coming down. And then if it is closed, we make that call quite early in the day. Usually we can tell as soon as we've done our testing in the morning, you kind of see the clarity of the water might not be good. So we'll put something on Facebook straight away. And then of course, when we answer the phones, we tell people. We don't catch everyone, of course, but yeah, we do our best to, basically. And if we're ever going to be closed in kind of a round way, then we put something on our Facebook pages where they usually try and pin it to the top of our page so it sticks there, if that makes sense.
That's great, thank you.
Membership to Woodford Park, how are we with that in terms of our health? Do we need to recruit? Is there any plan to open up to under 18s at all?
So we're open to 16s at the moment. Under 16s becomes a little bit of an issue with insurance, I believe. I think you have to be supervised into under 16, and our gym isn't supervised. There is a potential way around that with parents, but it's will be something. In terms of membership, it's recovered pretty well from COVID. This time of the year is always a little bit, it's there anyway, and then it tends to pick up again when you get back to September, because people that enjoy running or working outside can do in nicer weather. So we tend to struggle to recruit as many members during this period. But generally speaking, I'm relatively pleased with how we've recovered. Obviously, there's a lot of pre-COVID levels yet, but that is a
Roughly, so in terms of percent capacity, do we have a limit to membership? What if our membership was the ideal membership or capacity, or whichever way it's worked out, as X number of people, roughly, where are we in terms of membership?
Pre-COVID, we were at about 95% of capacity. We were actually at a point where we were thinking about stopping taking memberships because we were having issues such as people not being able to do what they wanted to do, classes being oversubscribed, things like that. We reacted to that by adding in more classes at peak times so that it would take people out of the gym and enable them to do something else, which worked really well. And then we didn't have time really to reevaluate our capacity before COVID hit. I think at our lowest point, we probably went down to about 40%. And that was difficult to go through because we had a lot of people who were still suspended because they weren't comfortable coming back to the gym during COVID. Now, original capacity, I'd say we're looking at somewhere between 70 and 80%. So it's kind of on its way back, but it does take time. I wouldn't really guess what it's going to get back.
Are we doing anything as a council, as a committee to encourage recruitment? Are there any?
Getting more members back. Yeah, so one of the things we found real success with is promoting our exercise class timetable. It's one of the things we're really popular for, and even I'm hoping it's going to work. But one of the things we're doing as part of the electrical works is getting all of our classes outside for the month of August. One, because we have to, but also because hopefully we've got nice weather. So we do things like that to promote, and that tends to draw members in because then people see we do something different. It's quite unique as well. Not other places do that. Every now and again we run offers, but we do that. We don't do that for a whole year, of course, because then it doesn't become an offer. So we've got one planned for the carnival week, that runs from the carnival day for the week afterwards, and we'll see a little, increasing membership after that. But rather than run that all the time, of course, and just have lower prices. Yeah, we do little things like that. Really, it does work, but like I said, you kind of see a steady increase, then a bit of a plateau, and then when you see the plateau, we tend to.
Do we have anything for people who want to sort of do workouts at home? I know obviously during COVID, lots of there were classes like obviously the Joe Wicks things for little kids on BBC, but also things like for I think it was the 50s or the 60s, I can't remember, chair aerobics type things that happened online. Is that possible to offer things like that? So for sort of classes that people can pay as you go to from home?
It is possible. It is possible. During COVID, we tried it a little bit. There was just so much competition for it. It kind of became counterproductive, really. So we don't do anything like that at the moment because there's so much available on even YouTube. You wouldn't find it hard to see why people would pay for it if they can just get it free at the same time. And if you do pay for it, the chances you're going to go for one of the higher end kind of providers. But we do things for over 50s in the centre. We actually do 2 chair-based exercise classes a week that see around 20 to 28 each week. They're really, really popular. But yeah, we've had more success doing things kind of in person. But it is.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because there's an element of accountability. If you know someone's going to know your name and say, hello, thank you for joining us, or do it this way, well done, you're doing it better. I think that is something you don't get with YouTube. And to see other people there, or class that you can't attend, then you might still have a sense of community.
That's something we've looked into since COVID, when we looked into it for obvious reasons. I think it was either Pilates or Body Balance. We basically got in touch with the ladies that used to come, in person to ask if they'd be interested in something like that. And we didn't have much response from it, but that was a couple of years ago now, so everything can change. I haven't listened for a couple of years at least.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Firstly, to note some really good news. We have appointed to a new post, which was created within the grounds team. So we have a new senior ground person in July. Waterfront Leisure Centre, electrical works, spoken about. There's not much more information in that paragraph. I think that the key thing from that is we are working really hard. Will be to minimise impacts. And what we think at the moment from the information we have, albeit before we get the schedule, is that they will be able to phase those works effectively, so that it doesn't minimise impacts, and that we'll have notice of when certain areas are going to be done, so that we can work our way through that. The flat roofing membrane has now been replaced. Following the previous works, that's all done. That's now got a single ply membrane across the whole of the front flat. That works complete. We've had a water heater failure, which we're just looking at options, prices for replacement of that unit. We're getting by with that damage replacing sooner rather than later. So that's just for information. Woodford Park, new play area, it's progressed really well. There's been a few niggles, as there always is with any sort of construction job, so they've managed to pull back on it. We're looking at an opening on 16th of June, which means we'll be closed until after the carnival weekend. It needs to stay closed until the Rossborough inspection has taken place to certify its safety use. You know, that applies to all the bits of equipment that have gone in. We have had some issues with the youth shelter and graffiti on that, which has been graffiti in itself has been a particular issue this year. We've had there's more of it on the skate park. We have had more antisocial behaviour at the park this year than we've had previously. And one of the things that we are aware of is that the youth shelter, which used to exist more in isolation, albeit next to the skate park, is now part of the central part of the play space, and that the graffiti on there, the nature of it, is a bit of an issue that we're trying to deal with at the moment. And it's an ongoing one. And there's been some chatter about that on social media. So it's something that we are aware of.
The question, or you can have questions at the end.
Well, if you can wait until
Green flag. This is a full judging year for the green flag, and we had a really good walk around with the judge that entered this year on the 24th. We're confident. We've had lots go on in the park since last year, certainly since the full judging last time. It was a really good day. The volunteers were out as well, and it was a positive show, I think. And the members of the public that stopped us as we went around, and so it was, there's a lot going on in the park. We're really proud of it, so I'm hopeful we'll retain it. What that does do for us as well, they do give us feedback, things to work on for next time. So it's not just a well done and off you go. We do get some really good information about things we can look at. So we'll be working on that through the course of this year. The Friends Group continuing with their good work. They managed to secure volunteers from Sage again, which has been really useful. Sage also a volunteer program, which means that we send a team down basically to work under the guidance of the they carried out some great works for us, which would have been difficult to do in other ways. Remember, it's really time intensive. Jubilee, Queen's Platinum, Jubilee, the Beacons. We have the beacon lighting event on Thursday, the 2nd of June. We have the beacon ready to go. We've tested it, and it's got fire. It's actually really good. So we're looking at a good event there. We've got a local choir coming, as it says in so obviously members and residents very welcome to come and take part in that event. The same choir will be doing his part in the afternoon as well. There's a special proclamation for town criers across the country to do that. And so yeah, that's going to be part of a good event. We get a certificate for participating as well in that. Part of that as well, we have a Jubilee tree planted, which the Mayor planted earlier in the year. That now has, or will have formally opened, a mosaic of painted stones around it, which is part of the project to involve local schools in that, which is a nice feature. So that'll be opened at the same time as the play area. We've had a full tree survey carried out with the trees in Woodford Park and Malone Park, which is going report next week. It's likely to flag up some works that will need to be looked at. From the conversations we've had with the surveyor, nothing too serious, but we were expecting that, and we did put some extra money in the budget, in the tree works budget in this year, so that we can manage our trees a bit better than we have actually. So that will inform the works for the rest of this year. Malone Park, we've had some work carried out to a tree there, which required some thinning out, repiling this week. Allotments, we do have a waiting list, which is still quite high. That number is around 74 at the moment. That is a high number. It's not necessarily so that all those students are desperately waiting for plots. People do tend to apply and work through the list. Some don't have one because the circumstances have changed or they've changed their mind. But there are a steady stream coming in. It's hovering around that for some time. And since COVID sort of hit, demand went up significantly, as you might expect. We are looking at potential areas for creating more plots. We have created a lot of plots over the last year, which does come with the same challenges as well in terms of wear and tear on the roads. We are looking at areas that we can free up to try and one of the things, the key things there as well is that through our liaising with the tenants committee who do the bit of work for us on the ground in children's is really encouraging people to take on smaller plots initially, rather than taking on a big plot that's often too much. The 10-pole plot is huge. We've got a lot of tenants taking on smaller plots, which is working really well. So that's something that's really positive. Obviously gives us more chance to get the waiting list. And just to note, the town centre garden water supply is not quite in. We're waiting on Thames Water, so our end of it is done, so the standpipe is in and ready. We're just waiting for Thames Water. We've been waiting for quite a while to actually connect the supply side of the ice. In the meantime, we're watching it.
Yes, I've been out and had a look at the shelter, and yeah, the graffiti is shocking, and I've been there several times. The interior in the past was black. If we painted it black again, it's quite difficult to graffiti onto black. I know there was some graffiti on the outside, but you know that the children doing it are not concealed from view, so they're less likely to graffiti the outside, aren't they? So is that a solution?
Yeah, potentially it's much harder to graffiti onto black, and it had been that way for some time. The colour change was a means of integrating it with the play space and making it feel a bit more pleasant. But yeah, it does lend itself to being written on more. So yeah, that's certainly not encouraged it, but you know, hasn't helped. So it was worth a try, I think. So that's something that we can change.
And that's a completely different question. Flooring's on their sort of fence, is that right?
Yeah, well, area. So
I thought 5.5 yards was the pole. So I was sort of thinking the 5 poles is 82 foot, is it? What I wanted to ask was how wide is
I think it's literally 25 square metres. 25 square metres per pole.
Yeah.
So 10 pole plot is, yeah.
Square metres?
Yeah.
I thought a pole was like something that worked up to furlongs to miles.
Yeah, in a modern area that you might be able to visualise.
Yeah, so sorry, yeah, so the 5 poles was mystifying to me.
Yeah.
So it's 25 square metres.
Per pole, I think. Yeah.
No,
It sounds quite big.
Yeah, it's about the shelter. Obviously, there is an issue with, you know, the premise of it. But I think for most people, you know, you give them a piece of paper and a pen, and they'll kind of like doodle with it. And I think it's the same thing with a blank canvas for kids who use the shelter. And realistically, how many people who use the shelter will be, who use that shelter will be offended by it? I never used it, but my own kids were little. So is it possible to have kind of like spot treatments for the offensive stuff?
At the moment, this is the worst it's been.
Yeah.
In a short space of time. It's unpleasant stuff. Yeah.
And the language and everything in it is completely unacceptable. You would not want your children to go in there and see any of those words.
Yes, I was going to just add to what Hurst just said. The whole area is totally covered. The benches totally covered. You will find what's homophobic, Islamophobic, that's misogynistic. You will find telephone numbers where someone says, Joe Bloggs, something like that, the phone number. I've been asked a few conversations on social media. What they say. I have to say, I can't say what they say because I would be prosecuted. And I wouldn't want adults to see some of that stuff, let alone a 4-year-old. You can imagine a 4-year-old going in there and seeing something, a picture or whatever, to say, honey,
I've had my kids when they were small, and when you had the top of the slide, the little kind of treehouse area, and they've asked what something means, and you're like, why do you say that? And you regret teaching them how to read when they're very young.
and unfortunately, when we say it's confusing, what we think of is those pictures or text. It's not. It is comprehensive. Plus, it's a drug dealer's away. So you've got that going on as well. So
that's more of a concern. So that's the thing really that I think we do need to address. Is that I think painting it black is a good idea. That's going to be something to ask. Is it possible to paint it with anything? You can get paint, can't you? That you can't kind of paint over it so easily. Or it's like doesn't stick.
It's that kind of paint that they use.
can I just interject? There's a picture here, and somebody scribbled, "A little paint won't stop us." And you can do, and I've had conversations about this because I'm actually quite shocked, and I do not want parents and little toddlers and what have you seeing this. It's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And I actually think we've got no option, but it's up to the committee to actually remove it from there and put it somewhere else.
I think putting it somewhere else is really good. I definitely, would say straight away I wouldn't want it removed, but or scrapped altogether. I think it's testament to how they want somewhere to go, and they need somewhere to go. And we keep talking about young people and youth services. I think this is kind of the point. I would like somewhere sheltered, reasonably safe, without adult supervision, where our young people can go. I mean, by the sound of the language, it is horrendous. Realistically, I don't think anyone who uses it is going to be offended by that, but then we can't stop little kids seeing that as well. So I think moving it somewhere where it's less likely to be, in the pathway of little kids or en route to the park or something, I think is sensible. But still to let the teenagers know that they have got a space in our community, in our park, that is for them to hang out. It's likely going to be a couple of people doing that, not everyone who uses that shelter. The drugs then issue is more of a concern, I think. Again,
that's been more of a thing in the park generally. So in the Garden of Refugees, again, this year has been worse. And just going back to the shelter, if it was that physical shelter, wouldn't be possible to move somewhere else because it would need to be outside. The facility of it, the function of it, could be recreated somewhere else with a different design or something else. If that's something the council.
Can I just finally I had this discussion this afternoon about providing ammunition. The thing that's driving me so hard is its location. Being in the middle of the that location. I would fully support it, the human being moved, because it's time issue. I don't know. I'm really horrified by what can potentially live with that, because it's life these days, isn't it? But it needs to be moved.
Well, honestly, this is something that needs to be quick. All that graffiti. If I could get the,
Yeah, but we just meant that it would be completely painted before the opening of the play space.
We'll be out there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Can we tell him it will be full again?
yeah, can we use, in painting it, can we use the paint that either it's glossy so that any graffiti will wash off very quickly and easily, or the anti-graffiti paint to stop.
Yes.
I had presumed it was painted with anti-graffiti paint to start with.
I'm not sure that the paint is in at the moment is what the anti-graffiti paints can do, but they're easier to clean the graffiti off. So you can still do it, but it doesn't make it easier to get rid of. So yes,
Yeah, one or two things. I mean, it's all this concern about the antisocial behaviour. Leeds and Madras has the CYP met recently, and what's happening with the youth strategy? Because clearly there are problems, and seems where it's another month, and we haven't had a report from that. What's happening? That's an important question.
An email went out, I think yesterday, the other day, for the first meeting on that, which is 13th of June. We're just waiting for everyone's agreement to come back.
Thank you.
Okay.
On the flat roof, how long is the guarantee?
25 years.
5 years. Sorry.
There's two, sorry, there's a manufacturer's guarantee, the installer's guarantee, the manufacturer's guarantee, because they come back and inspect the product to make sure that it's installed properly, and then provide a secondary guarantee.
And talking about survey of trees, etc. Let's not forget the Rivermead, a lot of bushes and that removed. Obviously, we needed to work on the beds. We need to replace that somehow as a habitat being there.
I'll bring that up with do we have any more questions on this?
Just a quick one. On the water for the town centre garden, you said the standpipe is in there. Is there any longer term plans to put in sort of automatic watering?
Yeah, we're looking at a sprinkler system, probably not automatic, but one that could just be switched on and off and not manned as such.
So it wouldn't be labour intensive because it's not sustainable to do it the way we do it at the moment. But yeah, once that's in the system.
Would that be a sprinkler system, or would it be the ubiquitous pipe that comes in?
Probably, yeah, we were looking at some options for irrigation throughout it. So I don't think we just don't know exactly which.
Thank you.
I'm going to add one item here, whether you know from where the house is asked that the allotment with 70 plus pitches, and they do believe the area site which is prepared.
Not every area yet. We are looking at some other areas we can. I think we've think we converted something like 100 plots over probably the last 8 years or something.
But there are some spaces up there that still could be converted for use. So
Okay. Do we have any more questions? Yes. Well, we'll move on to the preschool garden proposal, which is on page 8.
thank you. So fairly self-explanatory in terms of what the proposal from the preschool is. So the current situation of at least the space which is small outside space. And what they'd like to do is utilise, those of you familiar with that area, there's an area of grass with one large tree in it immediately to the back of their building. And they'd like to use that space as part of the outside space for the kids. And there's some information there in terms of how they would use that and the activities that would provide for. The space itself is, I mean, it is part of the park, so it is public open space at the moment, which is obviously a consideration. It's probably not the most used bit of grass. It is tucked away with one, particularly with that building being where it is. So it's not an area you can see that used particularly. So amenity value, it's probably not the most used area of the park. So what they are asking is whether they could take on that space, not the whole area right up to the hedge, but to leave an area around there so that we can continue to maintain the hedgerows and things around there. It would incorporate the larger tree. And what they were looking to do within that space was to have outside activities, so opportunities for kids to grow, so small allotment space, and an area with some fruit trees and things in as well, so that it's a sort of outside nature space for kids using it.
Who owns the preschool?
So they own the building and they lease the land from the council.
So would that extra bit, would we then increase the?
Yeah, it would be an extension to the lease. So in terms of the rent arrangement, then that space would be an amendment to the lease that's in place at the moment.
Okay.
There's a lease, a 20-year lease, which started in 2018 with a 5-yearly rent review on it. So that's the setup at the moment.
So with this new bit, their rent will increase?
Yeah, we need to look at that and obviously assess an appropriate rent. Given there is a mention of the rents in the resources section there. So we need to consider what that might look like as council.
So would it be that same rate that they would?
We need to consider that. It would seem massively dissimilar to that. In terms of, it's not quite the same area, so it is a smaller space, but in terms of sort of square.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also talk to them about it. We haven't discussed what that might look like at the moment with the principals.
Alex, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I can't imagine many people make use of it. It's on a slope and behind. Obviously, I presume the tree stays, and then you're saying the shrubs and things on the outside, that doesn't affect them at all.
No, so there'd still be a margin so that we could maintain the
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Yes, it's about the resources and about the tree. If the tree is to fall down and hurt somebody, whose responsibility is it? It's within that rented land. but it's still ours presumably.
It would be our responsibility.
So
Yeah.
there would be
Yeah.
the usual tree survey.
Yeah, we would continue to look after that tree in the same way. As we've done.
And the other question was, I was surprised that we didn't see how much the likely rent would be. It seems strange they've got this, it looks great, there's all these things they want to do, but that presumably has a price, and that price must be dependent on how much extra they're going to pay in rent. So have you not had a discussion with them as yet?
Not about the rent, no. I think at this stage it was more just whether it was likely to be something that we needed to see. Yeah.
A private company running it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, so they used to actually rent space in the leisure centre for many years. They just rented the function room. And back in, well, in the run up to 2018, when it actually happened, they'd managed to get a grant and look at space to have something more permanent, which is when the council provided that space.
Darren?
Yeah, I was involved in the original discussions when we had the preschool put onto that site, and it seems like a few years ago that it was done. So glad that it was 2018 when they kicked off. So, but whilst I've got no objections to this in principle, I'm really concerned that they expanded their area almost by double by doing this. And of course, the ethos in the park is that we don't build any permanent structures on it. So this structure that they've got at the moment is not a permanent structure. And the terms of the lease, you know, if we tell them to remove it, they have to remove it. So I haven't got any objections to what they want to do, but I think council should remember that, you know, we don't want to litter the park steadily over the coming years with temporary buildings. Unless it's properly managed and we have proper leases in place to do that. So I'm a bit surprised that they've come back so quickly after the first request for more space.
I think if it's helpful, the terms of that agreement, that's what council wants to do, could specify the usage of that space as not having a building on it.
So for example, I know there's a shed in there, you know, as well, you know, and that's another building, another temporary building in there. So, you know, we should maybe put things like that in to the lease to protect ourselves. And they should adequately insure that space as well as the building and the guarding on the site as well in case of accidents or injuries. The council shouldn't be responsible for those.
I don't have any problem with this, except that I think that a lot of people in Woodley are very precious over the Woodley Park. They won't like to see something else being fenced off because they've seen other places being fenced off, and then the loss of public amenity is gone. I mean, Paddington is one of the places, I mean, that's expanded so much, and the public space there now is very small. And is this part of the memorial ground or is it part of Woodford Park? Woodford Park. And people say, no, oh, you know, the memorial ground is getting fenced off. I think quite a few people might be quite worried about seeing fences going up for this facility.
I'm not sure, Kevin. How many people actually use that area of land? I don't think it's very.
I would say probably. I mean, I don't have any numbers for that. It's kind of tucked away.
Yeah, it's immediately behind the existing structure, so there's not a great deal of depth.
It's just the fact that people will see it being fenced off.
Yeah, it worries me.
It's not whether they use it or not, it's being fenced off, and that's something else that they quite object to, you know, to ways.
I would strongly support this. I'm by profession, I am an early years educator, and outdoors learning, that nothing beats it, and it's fantastic that it's being recognised and expanded. That in the written proposal, they mention that that area behind it is, you know, they've seen antisocial behaviour going on, as we know, places hidden does encourage that. It is still temporary. They're putting a fence and a shed that can be taken away if the preschool moved on. Kevin, is it a not-for-profit company that run Is it a community-based business?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry?
I don't know you say.
Is it, you don't think it's commercial?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. And are the majority, so most of the children are there using their government funding, are they?
It'll be a mix, I'm sure.
I mean, I think it's just when they said open to children with all backgrounds and abilities, I just wasn't quite clear what it was. Because, you know, I'm really in favour of making sure that we're offering, you know, that parents can give their children, their young children, that early education here locally. We don't want them travelling and adding to the roads. And it sounds a fantastic proposal. I do understand what Carol was saying about you would think that they would really propose this if they felt they could afford the rent. But I hope you'll be able to set that as something that, you know, was doable for them. But I suspect they might be able to obtain some funding to be doing this project. Because, you know, they set out an excellent case. And it's very exciting. And I think, you know, locally, everybody believes, don't they, in making sure our children have the best start in life.
I think from a personal view, I think it's a good idea insofar as the shed that I can understand the concerns over is right behind the preschool classroom. And I don't see that being seen or being obstructed. The area, apart from the water butt, is going to be left intact. While putting compost area, at the hotel, a lot of restrictions, which I think are very good additions for the youngsters there. No.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to Councillor Swaddle's opinion about it's an excellent idea. I think it's really important, and particularly that we're seeing sort of vandalism happening in our local community, in our park spaces by teenagers. You would hope that if they kind of really take ownership of the park when they're 4 and 5, you know, 3, 4 and 5, really young age, then they're more likely to continue to really appreciate the park, appreciate nature, preserve it. That's kind of been my idealist view of things. And I don't think it's too unreasonable. However, my concern is that there is an issue of social mobility. I love the fact that our local children can use this. However, how are we going to guarantee that it isn't going to be sort of unreasonably priced because of this extra offering and pushing out people who perhaps can't afford it, or if the rent increases, is that going to be passed on to the parents extra for it? In principle, I love it. I love the idea that kids in any education setting have more access to nature and preserve natural spaces. I am also concerned about the shed, but if it's out of view, it's not a building we will see. If we can specify how big it can be or small, I assume it's going to be a tool shed, which is maybe that big. But yeah, they're sort of my concerns and praises for.
Can I just find, Chairman, I've just had a look on the Charity Commission, and Woodley Preschool is a registered charity. So I don't think it's a company making a profit.
I assume that they're being charged a fee, they operate it as a charity, but they'll still be charged a fee for services. So, you know.
That's what I think. I mean, if they were a commercial, there's a lot of commercial nurseries, daycare, preschools out there.
I'm sure
which
they're
is absolutely different to, you know, if you're set up as a charity,
it's a slightly different.
then you're operating different model, you know.
I think the other thing I was going to say as well is, whilst I've got essentially an objection to the doubling of the space, it does indicate to me that they are very popular. And I know obviously 12, 21, 24 months from now, it's an application to us to extend the current classroom into the garden, the current garden into site to create another temporary building. Because again, that's not what we originally agreed to.
I assume that would be, that's our discretion, right? So there's nothing stopping them applying for all sorts.
No, absolutely not, but the thing is.
Yes,
exactly.
This space is specifically for garden use.
Absolutely, yeah.
They want to put an application or.
I think, but the point I'm trying to make is that they're becoming really popular and they need more and more space. They've got to think of a different place to put their preschool and not here, not in our park.
I would have thought something like this would be put in the lease anyway.
Can we put something like that in the lease?
Yeah.
We don't want to change any of the other use of that area. We'd rather lease because.
I think it's an excellent use of space, by the way. I think
It's
really
in the way it is at the moment,
That's
it's
really
fine.
lovely.
I don't want to see it. What I don't want to see is a temporary building getting bigger and bigger. In 10 years, it's 3 or 4 times the size. And now we've got a permanent structure on the park that we did not plan. Actually, the park is the laws that govern the park and the way the park is set up. We're not supposed to have these permanent structures on the park.
I've got to say also a letter from Robert Hoskins. He did say that he agreed with the proposed strategy.
I'm fine about it. I just think.
I'll take one more comment. You have to have.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to pick up on the expansion, they would have to apply for planning, because you can apply for planning on anyone, even if you have a permit. They can go down that route, but since the town council owns it, they wouldn't necessarily get permission to follow through the planning application. Because the town council would probably go around and say no. My real question though actually is about the tree. Using WBC speak, what's the sort of amenity value, in other words, the quality of that tree? I think it's a great proposal, by the way, but I am concerned they talk about hanging tires off the tree and all that sort of thing, which can rapidly damage the tree. And I was concerned when you said earlier that any damage to the tree or whatever would be down to our insurance. I think that is wrong. I think if they're closing this area, then they take on responsibility for the tree, and we need to make sure that they maintain it, because you could rapidly damage that tree, and then the tree is taken out, and it's lost. So I think there's something in there to say they've got the responsibility for the tree, and they need to maintain it to our specification, using our ground staff, etc. And if it's damaged at their cost, they need to replace it.
Yeah, I think that is key, along with the comments Councillor Smith made about the use of the space. And when I said the council would retain responsibility, that's exactly what I mean, is that actually we need to be able to, it's still our tree and it needs protecting, and we would retain responsibility for making it.
We need to get, for example, we need to have reasonable access or grant for access under the lease so that we can go in and carry out work on it.
Sorry, is that possible to I mean, I don't know about the legalities of kind of sharing land, or if you're on someone's land that they own. Is it possible to write up something in a contract where they can put a road tire on there if it's gone through our rigorous surveys and health and safety for their kids as well? Because obviously damage to a tree that's got kids hanging off it is not good for the nursery. So they all want it to be as safe as possible. Is it possible to draw up this kind of like co-parenting of the tree?
Yeah, I mean, it needs some careful wording, but yes, I mean, the lease is
compared to the allotments, we've got the right to say provided it is on council business, in which case we're then covered. The same sort of thing that I'm sure can be done.
Yeah, so if the tree suffers from disease that's not related to the use by the nursery, then I think it's fair and right that we take care of that. But if they cause any damage to it, they do.
Yeah.
Has it got a protection on it, the tree?
No, it wouldn't have, but I think under the terms of the lease, I think it's reasonable that the council would specify what's acceptable or not.
Anyway, can we move on? There's been a number of items picked up on this, which you've got notes on, Kevin. Now we've got to consider the proposals in school and make the recommendation to the full council. So, subject to the amendments that Kevin has noted from our various invitations, can I put it to the vote that this committee is in acceptance of the proposal and recommends it to the full council? All those in favour? Just for the record, does he have anyone against or abstentions? Okay. That's future agenda items. Before we do that, I would just like to bring up the last item on Robert Hawkins. I'll read them out. Please hold meetings in school holidays, especially ones with 2 bank holidays. Now, I think we all sympathise with those comments in one respect, but logistically, how would that
It's very difficult. They're not in there honestly, because it's very difficult to avoid it, given the timings of certain meetings that happen in the year.
It's because originally, if you go back 10 years, every councillor was over 65. So it didn't happen. Thank God we've got some youngsters where this is now an issue. So, right. With that, we'll move on to item 9, which are future agenda items.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I've never been on leisure services before, having been on this council for nearly 30 years or not. And so I just find it really strange, and I think we know how much we've discussed it tonight, that there's no agenda item for youth activities on this issue. I think the problem we've got with youth strategy and youth community partnership is we've lost sight of it because it's not on the agenda. And many, many times we're told you can't raise it because it's not on the agenda. And I really think it ought to be a permanent item on there.
Let me just answer that briefly, if I may, Carol, before we go on. Recent meetings, I think, there's been nothing about this strategy on the agenda. When I became chair, it was on every agenda. There was reports from Jacks, there were reports from the community youth partnership and what have you. COVID, unfortunately, has interfered with all of that drastically, which has put a hold on everything. We are moving forward. We've got the youth services revenue department now up. Well, it will be running come the 30th of June, providing everyone agrees that date. We're getting there as quickly as possible. We've only had one notice of intention on the youth strategy coming, which we discussed. I don't know if you want to say anything on that, Kevin?
Only that, obviously, that's the key item for the working party.
So these items will be put towards the working party. And once we get back to some semblance of normality, you will see reports coming from the NGO and from youth services working party, etc. appearing on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, can I finish what I was saying?
Yes, please do.
Yes, why I have some concern over it. My point is, we're no longer within that same COVID atmosphere we've been having to have in-person meetings for a long time. I don't know why, but what I want to be assured is that there will be a youth agenda item on every meeting, whether there's any business, whether anybody raised anything, one of those items will be on there. And that's what I was going to say before you interrupted me. So I'm actually, not that there's a meeting about with the youth strategy, which is good, but more the point is bringing that, highlighting the issue and bringing it to people's attention.
Yeah.
So then the public can see that the action is not around these issues. If people looked at previous agendas, they could well believe that we don't really care, and that's not true.
No, that isn't true. I can guarantee that if they're keen on the agenda items, when it's relevant, okay, I'm not saying it's come up with the single agenda, but when it's relevant,
I think probably Alex will second me, is that it does appear as a regular item in the same way that future agenda items, declarations of interest, those didn't. We had the same issue on planning committee being left behind, and that was community issues and highway issues, and we had no problem as a committee agreeing that those should be there. There'll just be words on the agenda which might up the numbers, but they won't be discussed unless there's an item. So I'd like to keep that forward as proposal, please.
This was a very important, emotive subject. I can remember, it was 2 years ago, I think, we had a full council meeting where it's discussed. A lot of people got very heated about it. I'm really quite, and certainly when I've been on this committee, we have had every committee meeting, a report, most cases from secretary, and certainly from Jack. Now, these issues haven't gone away, our concerns haven't gone away. I think we need to, as a committee, make it quite clear that this is an important subject and will be on the agenda every time, as it has been in the past. You know, COVID's gone, as far as the public's concerned, and certainly as far as the Prime Minister is concerned. You know, we're having in-person meetings. I don't know why this committee, which includes a lot of people who are not councillors, why that has not met anyway. Going forward, this should be on every meetings.
Anything to add? Jack's report, the service level agreement with them came to an end, and they have been continuing to do it free of charge since then, but they have no obligation from doing it free of charge to give us a report for every meeting. I can understand where you're coming from. In some degree, I sympathize with them. But at the end of the day, we can only have on the agenda what is relevant at that particular moment. Believe you me, once we've got working on the strategy, we'll have something to talk about.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're missing the point, but may I propose that we move to the vote? I think it's very clear.
Yes. So
we're not talking about youth each time. We're talking about highlighting the need to talk where.
So your proposal is that This committee insists on inclusion of youth strategy on every
No,
agenda.
we're not insisting. What we're asking is that there is an agenda item related to youth on every agenda, which shows our commitment to youth, and it allows us to have discussion.
That my mind is consistent.
Is that like a standing agenda item? Okay. Be clear about that.
On planning, we've set up a community issues item, highways issues item for councillors to broadly raise any issues that have come up in the last month that may not be mattered under another item, just as a way of allowing those issues that come up to be raised.
Well, I'm happy for that, as long as it doesn't lead to an argument every single meeting.
If I can maybe just interject from a standing orders perspective, okay, the new standing orders has a limitation on any agenda item of 30 minutes. So if your fear is that having it as an agenda item means that you don't necessarily, because of the, as Alex said, the high emotional content on this subject matter, stops you actually fulfilling the full agenda, you do have the fallback that the agenda item has to stop after 30 minutes.
Therefore, I will back that resolution.
And if we were to agree to having a standing agenda item, we could always remove it, couldn't we, if it became obstructive to the meeting contents? I'll take it. We could always vote to remove it.
Remove it.
Mr. Chairman, I have to post the vote.
Well, all those in favour of Karen's motion?
I found it very difficult to understand anything Carol was saying, I'm afraid. So,
Become a permanent agenda item on youth.
Youth strategy, just
Youth issues.
All right, so all those in favour?
5-4.
Okay.
Against.
Any other?
Very quick one. I've had conversation today with a resident who is very concerned that we may not have a union flag ready for the platinum. I don't think we have such a flag in the town council. Yes, on covers. But I think it's too late to actually get one now. And I was just wondering if anyone has got a friend or someone who's got a flag that we could borrow for this coming Jubilee weekend. July, just for that weekend. Well, maybe, I don't know if it's stitched or whatever, but one you can put on a flag card, just for temporary, obviously can't take the green flag one down. But we could take the Ukrainian one down just for those few days and put it back up.
One person who becomes. Because if anyone has got it, can they put it in touch with Keith? So that.
Well, no, Kevin, because they've got to arrange for it to split up. You know,
Last item is any free publicity for
new playground.
Okay, so before drawing this to a close, I'd like to remind everyone
It's 9:45 p.m. on the dot because the whole country is actually voting Beacons at 9:45.
We'll be at like 9:30, so.
Yeah, well, 9:30 congregate.
Yeah.
9:45 is when. Thank you, everyone.